أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear audience. Welcome to another live stream show presented to you by the Ask Islam team in Canada, where we select different topics each week, and we have a good discussion with our panelists, and we hope to have a good discussion with our viewers as well, who come and join us on this live stream. For those of our viewers who are joining us for the first time, I will present to you the format of this live stream, and then inshallah, we will get into our discussion. In the beginning, myself, the host, and our panelists, we have a discussion. And then after that, we open up the floor to our audience for their question, whether they would like to join us here on the stream or in the comment section. Feel free to ask your questions. If we are not able to take up these questions in our stream today, inshallah, we will note them down, and in our following stream or in another stream with a similar topic, we will take up those questions. So before I introduce the topic of today, I want to introduce our guest on this show today. I have today with me Muhammad Daniel Sahib, a graduate of Jamia Ahmadiyya Canada, the theological school here in Canada. And Daniel Sahib currently is serving. Daniel Sahib, you served in Quebec as well previously, right? Yes.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I was there for about I would say 3-4 months.
Okay, so 3-4 months, Daniel Sahib. That was his first posting, and then after that, mashallah, he has been serving in MTA Canada, which is MTA's Muslim Television Ahmadiyya. It's the official television of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. You can go online onto YouTube and watch it there, and it specifically on satellite as well. So Daniel Sahib, welcome to the show, and Jazakallah for joining me today.
Jazakallah.
So dear audience, today, very interesting topic, and I think very relevant to today's time, and something we just talked about a lot. And the topic is free speech or censorship, a religious perspective. Daniel Saab, I think ever since we had the U.S. elections, this was a huge talking point during the U.S. elections, was of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, especially by the President-elect Donald Trump. And I think they felt that freedom of expression, freedom of speech was being hindered in the United States. And then we look at the events going on in the world, the turmoil in the Middle East. You have the war in Palestine and other wars around the world, and especially the war in Palestine. I think when we look at online in the social media platforms, we see that at one hand, the West is promoting free speech, but at the same time, there's a certain sense, a certain type of censorship that goes on as well. And I think we can get into the details once we start our conversation. So that's where the inspiration for our topic for today is. And I think one stream probably is not enough. Today, we're only going to have a short stream, about 25, 30 minutes, and could go longer if we have more questions. But I think this could be an extended topic that we can discuss. But Murbi Saab, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, this is basically in all of these, is embedded in the constitution of all these countries, at least in the Western world. We live in Canada. We have the Charter of Freedoms, and in the second fundamental freedom is the freedom of speech. In the U.S. Constitution is the First Amendment. That is the freedom of speech. And in the UN is the Article 19, I believe, which is it gives the freedom of speech and freedom of expression to human beings. But I'm using these phrases: freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Is there a specific definition of freedom of speech when it comes to these kind of things?
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So the definition of freedom of speech, it varies across cultures, across countries, and it's very the lines are pretty much blurred in what freedom of speech is. For example, in USA, they claim that they have freedom of speech, right? But there's the far right movement that says that the free speech that we have over here is not really free speech if you have censorship, or there's some elements of the free speech that they say that shouldn't be in there or should be in there. For example, when some people say free speech, they mean absolute free speech. right? That you should be able to criticize, ridicule anyone,
Yeah,
right? At
yeah,
any given point.
yeah. And so even these people who have like, I think they're called absolutists, like
Yes.
absolute free speech advocates. But even if you look at their point of view, they also have some form of censorship where they get sensitive to get, okay, this topic is off discussion. This is not part of free speech.
Yeah. So, in the actual sense, we cannot have absolute free speech because even the people, I think, who call themselves absolutists, or the word you mentioned, basically, even they don't believe in call to action, right?
Right,
Basically, inciting violence
right.
for another community or a group of people.
Mm.
So there's no such thing. You can't be absolutely for free speech. Otherwise, you'll disrupt the peace of the land.
Right. No, I think you're correctly right, and I something that comes back to my mind is the event of Charlie Hebdo. I think in a lot of years back, I think like 2006 or seven, something like that, where they drew a caricature of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that offended a lot of, offended the entire Muslim world, and they were up in arms and they were threatening, and the editors, and they actually had an attack on Charlie Hebdo, the Muslim terrorists. They attacked Charlie Hebdo, and at that time, I think a question like this was raised to the Pope at that time, and he said that ha- he said that, look, if somebody was to insult your mother or father, you can't expect them to just hold back. Like, you got to expect a slap to your face. You have to be ready for that, right? So even though they express this freedom of speech, and like you said, if it disrupts the peace of the country, of the peace of the community, that's where the line, usually should be drawn. um Ji,
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people have the counter argument that you should be able to. The problem is not how people react. The problem is why people react, right?
Okay.
As in, for example, you should be able to say what you want, and people should be mature enough to take criticism, right? Otherwise, who knows what's offensive to others and what is not? You can say anything, and it can be offensive to any nation, right?
Yeah.
This is where we're taught to use our wisdom. This is
Mm.
where the Islamic teachings even come into speak with good intentions, right?
Right. Right.
Or don't speak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The other thing about social media you highlighted, see, this is a very interesting topic about, that you brought up, right? The drawings of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. On the other hand, you see the same people, same social media. If it were a drawing of something that's anti-Semitic, right,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be shut down.
Exactly.
Be
Yeah.
shut down. Nobody would even bring up the terms free speech over there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because automatically the double standard kicks in,
Hmm.
right? And because so this tells you about the mischievousness behind the act as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they're going to draw the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there's a
Yeah.
mischievous element to it, right?
Right.
To incite. The
Because they know it's going to incite the Muslim world.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
idea would be to incite them. The idea would, create some sort of reaction,
Hmm.
right, or an
Right.
uproar, and then
Right.
to label the Muslims as people that have no tolerance.
Hmm.
Whereas we see, if anything, those cartoons were pretty extreme, and if we even do something, or anybody does something slightly anti-Semitic, even
Yeah.
denies the or not denies the Holocaust, but let's say denies even the amount of people that were killed in the Holocaust,
Hmm.
they're held accountable for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also the double standard in media as well. So,
Yeah.
as I said, the lines are really blurred as to what is free speech, even in the social media sphere.
Right. No, so you mentioned that if you or if you deny the Holocaust, you can be punished. I'm looking up an article right now. I had come across this a few years ago. It's pretty old, and it's a CBC article, and it says Alberta Holocaust denier convicted in Germany for incitement to hatred. So that law, it does exist, and I recall another article a few years back where a teacher taught their students in the class that or they presumed that the Holocaust didn't exist, and for that she was fired and charged for inciting hatred. So you're correct in that sense as well, that especially the Charlie Hebdo caricatures that were drawn. and the Islamic teaching that speak with wisdom. If you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. So that's a great point as well. G.
This is why censorship or at least content moderation should be applied.
Mhm.
And a lot of these social media platforms, they do apply that to some degree.
Mhm.
But recently, as we see, X, formerly known
Yeah.
as Twitter, they claim that they block or censor hate speech.
Right.
But that's not really the case, because I was recently watching the Don Lemon and Elon Musk interview. It
Yeah.
happened a few months back, I think 8 or 9 months back, and they were talking about censorship.
Mhm.
And you see the double standard as well. I mean, for the most part, Elon Musk's answers were, good, and they made sense. But when it came to the censorship part, Don asked him that, or he showed him rather, hateful anti-Semitic, comments and pictures.
Right. Right.
And Elon kind of brushed it off, saying nobody really saw these, right?
Mhm.
And just because no one saw these or didn't get enough views, it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Even though he did agree that hate speech is not allowed on the platform. So his answer was that just because it didn't get enough views,
Yeah.
it's okay, right?
Mhm.
So you see the
Right.
double standard over there as well. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it doesn't get enough views.
Right.
It doesn't matter because, first of all, it has the potential to get more views.
Right.
Also, it only takes one person to,
Yeah. One influential person likes it, and it's
exactly, or
popular.
not even that. It takes one person who may be a psychotic person to
Hmm.
take that anti-Semitic rhetoric to heart
Hmm.
and actually incite violence, right?
Right. Right.
So it's about remaining consistent, at least with the
Right.
policies. But you
Right.
see that sometimes even in the social media platforms, that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
Same thing. It goes back to the same thing where if it's anti-Semitic, it's
Hmm.
allowed, or it's not allowed.
Hmm.
And if it's anything against, even Christianity, we talk about Islam a lot,
Right.
naturally, but the fact is that Christianity is targeted heavily and
Right.
heavily criticized on social media as well, but nobody
Yeah.
says anything,
Nobody says anything.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
maybe they don't get a reaction out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a huge thing. I think the reaction part is what sells basically.
Right.
On social media, that's what it's all about. If you want to get popular, if you have reaction to what you're presenting, what you're putting out there, you're gonna become popular. And
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and there's caricatures and drawings of Jesus, peace be upon him, by countless people. I mean, we don't hear a voice from the Christian community at all about that, and it's just about the reaction, like you said. So no,
Absolutely.
that's a good point to put out there as well. Ramsa, one of the I was listening to a speech of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis, Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, the fifth head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. In 2006, I think this was after the Charlie Hebdo attacks,
Mhm.
and he said, and he mentioned in his speech that as Muslims, we cannot we should not react to such things in an extreme way, with the rather than going and threatening these people. We should present the good teachings of Islam, and what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. And he also mentioned that as Muslims, uh, it's not for us to be violent towards other people and to react to such things, because we believe that to every nation a prophet was sent.
Yeah.
So if we are people that believes to that every nation received a prophet, we respect all those personal those prophets as well. So that means we cannot offend anybody else, whether it be Christian or Jewish or Buddhist, because we believe they all got prophets. So that's the quality of the Muslim, that because they believe in all these prophets, because they believe in this concept of every nation having a prophet, it's not in our nature to offend others, and we should not offend others as well. Marisa, we have a question in the chat, so let's take that up before we continue our conversation. I would like to request our viewers to please share this live stream link with their family and friend on social media as well. I know somebody has joined us in the backstage. It is one side. If you want to join us on the stage, please show us your camera, and then once you've done that, I will add you onto the stage, and we can take your question as well. Oh, okay. So I think he just He just left. But Rizwan Saab does have a question, Rabbi Saab. I'll put it. Can you see the comments, or should I put it on the screen?
See the comments.
Okay, so Rizwan Saab has a question, and I think it's a good question, and I think we had a pre-show we had a conversation about this as well. I'll read it out as well. I put it on the screen for your ease, and I'll read it out. Rizwan Saib, I think a very good question by Rizwan Saib, and a good discussion to have. He says, Assalamu alaikum. Since this is saying from a religious perspective, how can someone from Jamaat say things from a free speech way and not get censored for it? And he follows up this comment with this comment that especially in response to the allegations against the promised Messiah because of certain terms used in his books. Rabbi Saab, do you get what the question is? Is it clear to you?
Yes, I do. Well, I think it's there's two questions. Well, obviously the answer for the Prophet ﷺ and the terminology that he's used in his books has been covered many times. But obviously the short answer for that is basically the language that he used, it is appropriate for the time that he used it, right? There's a lot of words, there's a lot of terminologies in this day and age that we do not use that were appropriate back in the day. Right. There's many aspects to, the language that the Prophet used. And this is one of the things that people should understand. We all should understand that a lot of language that was used back in the day is not appropriate now, right? Because language changes, it evolves, cultures change and they evolve. There's a lot of, we see this in front of us. I mean, English within our time, I mean, certain words which were okay in high school when we were in high school are not okay now, right? The word handicap, for example, was used as a proper term. It was basically a socially accepted term.
Right.
Right.
Now it's offended.
Not politically correct anymore.
Right.
So one may say that the Prophet ﷺ used certain language, and it was absolutely appropriate at the time. Right. And you see,
and I think also the response, because usually the harsh language that is used by the Promised Messiah ﷺ is in response to certain people, not the entire nation, but certain people in response to them. And I think that comes under the concept in Islam that sayyatum mislu, I'm quoting this verse wrong, I don't want to quote it, I'll just try this translation, that for every harsh thing, a harsh response is appropriate. And something on the line. Let me look up the verse, maybe if you want to finish up your thought. Yeah.
Yes. So that's also a thing, right? I mean, for example, the appropriate response, right? That's an argument. As I said, that there's many arguments to answer this question.
Yeah.
The more sensible ones, in my opinion, is the type of language that is used back in the day and that is used today, right?
Yeah.
It goes along with a lot of allegations that we say, even at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that the enemies of the time did not, basically had no allegations against certain things that people have allegations now, right? So at the time, those things were normal and those things were accepted, and they were looked at as something negative. And if it was something negative, if he in fact did use very foul or harsh language, then the enemies of the Prophet at the time would, bring that up as well. And nobody brings that up at the time, right?
Yeah.
Everything is put forth after 100+ years. So that's one of the most simplest ways. And the first part of his question, what was it? That if we are using,
it said that how can someone from Jamaat say things from a free speech perspective, he says way perspective, and not get censored for it?
Well, I mean, in the Jamaat, it's basically we gauge everything on its merit, whether it's true or not, right? Free speech doesn't mean that you can just say falsehood as well, right? And not get called out for it.
Yeah.
Not be held accountable for it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think the term wouldn't be censored. The term would be held accountable or fact checked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think we discussed this as well in our pre-show. I think that Islam leans a little bit towards censorship. I think a little bit because to keep the peace in society.
Absolutely.
To keep the peace in society. Yeah.
The thing is, I think the word censorship is looked down upon these days as well.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The thing is, it's always looked at in a negative context. or people think it connotes negativity when it doesn't. We use censorship all the time, right?
Yeah.
We are mindful of other people's feelings. As I said in the beginning, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that, speak good. And if you have nothing good to say, then remain silent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If somebody says, no, it's my right to, say whatever I want,
Yeah.
we're going against the teachings of Islam as well,
Yeah.
teachings of the Holy Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, Mirzam, I think even in the Western philosophy, there's a concept when it comes to when you discuss free speech. This word or this phrase comes a lot. Is the harm principle?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too well versed in what the harm principle is, but if you watch videos and if you read articles, that's brought up a lot during free speech debates.
Yeah.
That okay, what is the harm principle? Like, who judges what the harm principle is? So basically, what the harm principle as a nutshell or as the overview is that okay, you have free speech, but at what point does it become harmful to society or to the individual?
Right.
And that line, I think, is especially in the Western world, in the liberal framework, is decided by the individual himself. Because unlike religion, which is dictated by a book, but dictated by a supreme leader as well, who guides us. For example, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, we are guided by a Khalifa, and we have the Holy Quran who guides us, and the sayings of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu. In a liberal framework, that absolute or objective thing doesn't exist. So the harm principle, free speech, debate exists, and it's all up to the individual. But you made a great point that in Islam, the Holy Quran teaches us wisdom, to speak with wisdom, to whatever action you do it with wisdom and keeping in mind the peace of society.
Right.
So if somebody feels that they have the right to abuse through words, their fellow countryman or fellow neighbor, then they should also expect a reaction as well, because at the end of the day, the other person is also human.
Right. And the thing is that hikmat or wisdom is one of those things that you use it at the right place and time, right?
Mhm.
Whatever you have to say, whether it be something critical of somebody or a nation or any idea, then it's supposed to be used at the appropriate time and place
Mhm.
where something positive can, or potentially positive, can come out of the situation.
Yeah.
If we're just gonna go on social media and say things to get a reaction out of people, then our intentions are not pure. Our intentions might be, mischievous, and
Yeah.
that's another thing that we're judged on, our
Mhm.
intentions. So we all know that having anything to do with mischievousness,
Mhm.
of course, is not right. So the idea that you should be able to say whatever you want whenever you want,
Mhm.
it doesn't align with morality as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no. I think that's a great point that you make as well there. Um, I'm going to remind our viewers again that I put the link in the stream in the comment section as well. I request you to please share this with your family and friends on your social media platform, so that other people may benefit from that as well. It's one side. If you're still here and you listen to our response, please let us know if you have follow-up questions on this. You may put them in the comment section. We'll take them up as well. And if we maybe Saab has answered them and explained them correct to your understanding, to the best of your understanding, then you please let us know as well.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
actually about to say that as well, as in if there are, because this is the first time I'm on this live stream,
right,
I'm
right.
not sure how you guys carry that out, but if something is unclear,
Yeah.
maybe we can go back and
Yeah.
try to.
If there are some questions that maybe we are not able to answer today, and we might need to do a little bit more research and come back, we can always do that in a later stream. It doesn't necessarily have to be in this stream today, and especially such sensitive topics that we do discuss. Marissa, moving on. I mean, we don't have any questions at the moment, and we have around 5-10 minutes left in the show.
Mhm.
Um, do we really one question that comes up is, do we really live in a world of free speech? I think you covered this a little bit as well. If you want to elaborate, like.
We live in a world where everybody wants free speech, right? That's absolutely
Right,
true.
right,
Well, when we mean we live in a world, I think as in for us,
right,
we have to take in the Western bubble as well. Right?
right. Yeah.
This is where most of the countries, they have democracy.
Right.
Canada, USA, all of Europe. So the world we live in, yes, I think it is a place where free speech is promoted, right? But
Right.
I still think that the idea of free speech is very blurred, right?
Yeah.
It's very people are uncertain of exactly what it is, and
Mm.
I think a lot of people hop on the bandwagon of free speech as well, not knowing the negative implications of free speech as well when they say absolute free speech, right?
Mm.
With absolute free speech, it's impossible to have peace in the society
Mm.
because then anybody will be able to get up and say anything about anybody, which is obviously harmful or something that is offensive.
Mm.
And that's just something that's not possible in a peaceful society.
Yeah.
I think everybody is fascinated with the idea of absolute free speech.
Yeah.
But I think we need to rethink, or we need to think harder on the implications of absolute free speech,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. No, I think a very good point there. That we really don't think about the outcome of something that we want to say. I mean, we have some thought in our mind, and if you just want to express everything that comes to our mind, then the peace doesn't exist in society, and neither do we have peace in our homes or in ourselves either. So I think you have to be very thoughtful of what you talk about and how you talk about it. And yes, we are really fascinated about free speech and how can we implement that in our society. But the reality, like you said, and from example from history is the same that uh, free speech, it's kind of difficult to uphold, like absolute free speech at least.
Right.
It's difficult to uphold, especially if you are looking to um, uh, you know uh, maintain the peace in society as well.
Exactly. And as Muslims, we're taught to control our, impulses as well, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolute free speech is very, it
Yeah.
could be very impulsive as well.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You don't know
Exactly.
what you're gonna get out of it. You open a Pandora's box,
Yeah.
and that's it. You don't know
Right.
what you're gonna get.
Right. And Jay, one of our viewers, James Sinclair Sahib, he makes a good point in the comments. He is that Hazure Akhtar Sayyidullah Talab says, he said that the right to free speech stands, but that we should not aim to harm the feelings and sentiments of others. So Jazakallah for the comment. He follows up this comment with the question that, is this same understanding shared by any other faiths? This understanding that we should not aim to harm and the feelings and sentiments of others, keeping in mind free speech.
Um, well, I mean, right off the surface, every major religion, tells us to be mindful of other people's sentiments, right? It tells us kindness, tells us to be, mindful of everything around us or all the human beings around us,
Mm.
and tells us to basically whatever we need to utter, it needs to be something productive, right?
Right.
Obviously, you can't restrict speech if your aim is the basically what you call it, just islah, right? What
Right.
would be the English term for islah?
Um,
Like
Reformation or
reformation or betterment
yeah.
for the individual
Right.
society, right?
Right.
That's something different. But in terms of other faiths, restricting, I don't think they restrict free speech.
Mm.
But yes, of course, I mean, there's some things that you need to be mindful of. And if you want to be mindful of some things, then there's some things that you have to not say or refrain
Yeah.
from,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And, and
like,
also, for example, backbiting, right?
right.
You can say that, oh, it's free speech, but backbiting is forbidden in many, many faiths. It's looked at
Right.
a great sin.
Right. And I mean, in Islam, like, we know the verse in the Holy Quran which prohibits backbiting. I mean, nothing comes to my mind. I mean, at the surface right now, right off the bat, of any verses from the Bible or anywhere else that do promote this. But I'm sure there are verses in the Bible, in Buddhist teachings as well, other religions, because ultimately, these religions are from Islam. All these founders are sent by Allah the Almighty, and so basically they've taught us all the basic human things. Jazakallah Rabbi, I think all religions do highlight to somewhat of an extent, to an extent, taking care of other people's sentiments when it comes to free speech. Um, uh, Rabbi Saab, there's another person in the chat. I don't know if you have looked at his comments. He has. I mean, I guess he might be not. He's definitely not got him.
This is another example of free speech.
Yeah, yeah,
People are welcome to say
yeah.
or ask whatever they want, as long as it's in the bounds of actually willingness of acquiring knowledge
Right.
and
Yeah,
understanding of something rather than mischievousness. I think this is a pretty sensible question.
yeah, yeah.
But I think it's also misunderstood in a lot of ways. The only thing that we're not, where we have to seek authority,
Mm.
we have to seek authorization is for official debates, something that goes online or something that goes on social media platforms.
Yeah,
And other than that, I mean, you can go to any Ahmadi in the world and have some sort of debate with them. That's not,
yeah. Some sort
whatever.
of
It's not like,
discussion or debate. Yeah.
somebody I meet down the street and then I have to call someone to get authorization
Right. Right.
speak to him. No, speaking and debating is perfectly fine and within the bounds of everything. But authorization is needed for something that if we're going to go on a platform,
Right. Right.
because obviously there's risks involved.
Right.
There's other factors.
Yeah.
But I don't think this person who I think Rashid.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if Rashid Saab goes to any Ahmadi and wants to have a debate with them,
Yeah.
they're open to have a debate with them. Why not?
Yeah. But I think Murtabisab, the core, the principle I think he's trying to get at, like every question has a principle that where this question arises from, and I think the principle that they're trying to bring into is that okay, can free speech, can it be authorized? Let's say okay, I'm sure they're Muslim, right? Like they know about us. Let's assume they're Muslims. In Islam, well, let me have your point of view on this. Is free speech or is speech, is it controlled in Islam by a certain thing, or is it just okay, free for all, everybody can discuss whatever they want and it's up to them?
No, I think that when you have a Khalifa of the time, and if somebody's unsure of something, if they should go forth with some sort of like discussion or debate, and if the Khalifa of the time tells you that okay, maybe you should refrain from this or refrain from saying this, then I think it's fine. There's
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, Muslims or anybody in the world, who believe in spiritual heads, they would agree with the fact that if they, allow you to do something, then you're okay to do it. And if they say that refrain from it, you refrain from it.
Right.
You've
Right.
given them that power.
Right.
I think it's a very simple concept.
Yeah.
If that doesn't clear up the question, then that's another thing. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very simple concept. If you believe in a spiritual head, and you believe them to be rightly guided by Allah Ta'ala, if they tell you something to do or not to do, right, it doesn't only end on speech. It ends on actions. It goes on everything, every aspect of life.
Right.
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 The Holy Prophet ﷺ
So,
tells people or something, or told people something at the time, or the Khulafa did. Although it might seem like it's going against their basic fundamental rights, but nobody seems to object on those things.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think being in a religion, any religion, Christianity, Judaism, whether it be Islam, we have an objective core principle that we follow, or something we look up to. As Muslims, it's the Holy Quran. Then it's the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If this person who asks us a question, if he's a Muslim, if he has something in his mind which goes against the Holy Quran, which against the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he says, oh no, I have the freedom of speech, I'll say whatever I want, I can say something against it, I don't know how well his fellow counterpart Muslims will take that into consideration, because as in Islam, like I said, in religion, we have something that governs our every aspect of life, which is freedom of speech, and that is the Holy Quran, and that is the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And as Muslims, being sincere Muslims, we try to follow those teachings and try to be in those bounds. So technically we do have free speech, but in that circle which is drawn and given to us by the Holy Prophet ﷺ and by the Holy Quran. So Jazakallah for that as well. They are following up with other questions without giving any proofs. One of them is that the Ahmadi Muslim community tampers with its writings because we don't have the and because we keep on changing the writings of the Promised Messiah, Islam. I request him to give us proof of that. Not every question they ask we have to answer, but so you are asking questions without giving any proof. So if you could do that as well. He follows up that, no, brother, in Islam you have diverse opinions, different of opinions. While we are submitting to the community, 1 year the opinion of the current leader is taken, the next year the next. And what we said, I think if you look back at the Islamic literature, even if you look at the time of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm sure there are different in opinions and difference in rules and regulations that came with each Khalifa. And I think something that comes to the top of my mind is is talking about talaq. In the time of Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he had a different concept of talaq compared to the other Khulafa. That's not a difference of opinion. That is a difference of opinion, but that also, can some people might raise those into the core allegations. So
Right.
I mean, not Gigi.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if it's something that is a core belief that is,
Yeah.
strictly stipulated by the Holy Quran or the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you're changing that, then I guess
Yeah.
that's something that can be discussed.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about Khilafat is that it caters to the need of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
If you have a Khalifa that was present at the time of world wars, World War I, World War II, and there's some drastic measures that he had to take. Those rules or whatever he stipulated at the time might not apply in the time of the third Khalifa or the fourth Khalifa or the fifth, right?
Right.
So obviously things advance,
Yeah.
and we have that spiritual guidance that is changing,
Right.
right?
But it's not the core beliefs. The core beliefs. Yeah, exactly. So the core beliefs always remain the same: the 5 pillars, the 6 articles of faith. There's no debate on that.
And it's right. I mean, for example, that you mentioned that this person, whoever it is, if they can bring about some proof or some references as to what the Khalifa said 1 year and then he changed it the next year, then that might be more helpful, and we can delve into that. But the idea of basically with the time, whatever the guidance is, that's ever present.
Right.
It's been there.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of being in the Muslim community, and we're lucky to having that one spiritual head that can guide us through different times with different teachings. Because if you don't have that spiritual head, if you don't have that one person guiding you, then we look at the Muslim Ummah, then you have different sects that are divided and they have their own opinions, and you don't have that unity. At the end of the day, it's all about unity and getting through these difficult times with that Khalifa. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that the Imam is like a shield. And for us in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, is the Khalifa of the time, who is a shield, who guides us through these times with his teachings, and those teachings which are really prevalent to the time and are much needed. So like you said, if the person can give us examples, we can delve more into that as well.
And then otherwise, what is really the point of having Khilafat then, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's people that are going to have, several different opinions, right? And people are going to have different opinions throughout. And there's no point of Khilafat if you can refer to the Khalifa of the time and be united on one decision. And then if you want to call that decision something authoritative or something dictatorship, then if you don't believe in Khilafat, then that's a separate thing. But if you believe in Khilafat, that's what it is. It's not dictatorship. It's basically rightly guided. Guidance.
Yeah, and I recall the first khutbah Jummah that has Khalifatul Masih Khamis, the 5th head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, he delivered, and a very beautiful towards the end, he said, he requested prayers for himself, and he said that if you differ with something, with me, you write to me. Don't discuss it in between yourselves. You have no right to, say that about Khilafat. If you have something, then you say that, okay, this is how it should be, you should write directly to me. And I think that's the beauty of Islam Ahmadiyyat as well, that every person has that reach. That if they have an opinion, if they say they think that certain things should be like this, they have the right and the full freedom to reach out to the Khalifa of the time and put his question in front of him and ask for his guidance.
Right.
So I think when we use the word dictatorship, or when our opponents use the word that Ahmadiyyat is a dictatorship, they take it into the sense that how normal people use dictatorships, that exists.
Or a cult or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a definition, which is something. Dictatorship, if you live in the West, is looked down upon, right? So when you use that phrase, it's a means to, make the Ahmadiyya Muslim community look down upon.
No, if the Muslims, if all the our other Muslim brothers, if they believe that the Khilafat of the Holy Prophet Khulafa Rashida, if that was a dictatorship to them, then absolutely we're a dictatorship then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll fully accept it. We'll 100% accept of that. And I just want to quickly, before we come to the closing of the show, I want to quickly just come back to, I was free when you were answering the question for the harsh language used by the promised Messiah. I was trying to remember the verse of the Holy Quran. This is from chapter 42, verse number 41. It says, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. That remember that the recompense of an injury is an injury like thereof. So this is a concept which that exists in Islam, that if somebody does something harmful, the recompense of that, you can not harmful in the sense that when you reply, for example, the Holy Prophet Messiah, he was replying to such people who were abusing the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who were abusing Ummahatul Mu'mineen, who were abusing Islam. So the Holy Prophet Messiah ﷺ, in many of his writings, he tried to explain them to them in a very polite manner.
Right.
But when they did not understand, then he used their own form of literary techniques to explain to them, hey, look, if you're going to say bad things about us, then the same applies for you as well. And
basically, equal to that of.
Yeah, equal to that of, exactly. So this is a concept that existed. This is the verse that I was referring to that I couldn't remember at that time. Murbi Sahib, I think we don't have any more questions as of now. And I think we had a good conversation. I think we can continue this on as well, maybe in another part 2 stream, because this is a very vast topic. And
absolutely, I think we can further address these questions as well.
Yeah,
if they're found sensible, and if they seem that they're.
Yeah. The person who's asking is genuine, and if they're looking for a good discussion, then I think we can take those questions up. But if it's just closed-minded questions, then I think it's not worth our time to.
Right, definitely. We owe it to our viewers. We owe it to whoever's asking questions that they want answers, and we owe it to them to provide the answers. 100%.
Exactly.
Inshallah, we will try our best.
So Murbi Sahib, Jazakallah for joining me today. I think I enjoyed my time here, and we had a good discussion. And hopefully our viewers also enjoyed this discussion as well, and maybe give them a good sense of what freedom of speech and censorship, especially in this day and age, is, and how Islam discusses that, and how religion discusses that as well. And I think the outgoing one thing that I took from our discussion today, and I think our viewers should take out as well, is that in Islam, it's about wisdom. Every action that is done is about wisdom. It's about your niyat, about your intention. And if you keep that in mind, and if that mind, then society as a whole, will be peaceful. And it comes the same thing with freedom of speech, whether it be online, whether it be in person. If you are using that freedom, everybody has that freedom. But if you're using that freedom as a source of with wisdom, with good intentions, then it's beneficial to the community. Then it's beneficial to the society in large. But if that wisdom and that intention and that guidance, that whether it be from the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the Khulafa of the time, when the guidance is not there, then you have these rifts and these different difficulties arising in society.
Absolutely.
You have just got to keep that in mind.
Just to add to your point that you brought up, that if your intentions are pure, I believe that if your intentions are pure, I don't think there's any way you can harm, or you can basically cause any sort of you cannot anger another person, right? You cannot cause any offense. Right? Even though your inquiry may be a bit of a something that is controversial,
right?
You are sincere in your quest for knowledge or truth, and if you ask something which may seem harmful, if you ask it with the evil intention or ill intention,
right?
If you have pure intentions, I don't think you can ever offend anybody either.
And as Muslims, we believe that if you have good intentions and you strive in some way for in good intention, then Allah the Almighty blesses that effort as well and guides you in that sense as well.
Awesome.
Rabbi Sab, Jazakallah for joining me today. And I think, again, an excellent discussion. And to our viewers, just want to give a quick reminder. We have three programs that we do here on the Ask Islam stream. The first one is on Wednesdays. It is for our Urdu viewers. It comes live every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is only for our Urdu viewers. I mean, if you understand Urdu, you may join that program and listen live. Then we have our second program on Thursdays, which is the English stream, where we are right now, every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have a stream for our Arabic viewers as well, which is at 11:30 a.m. every single Friday every week. So we request our viewers that the only way we can have good discussions here is with your participation. If you ask questions, if you share the stream with your family and friend on your social media, we can have a fruitful discussion here, have good talking points here as well. I mean, me and our, as a host or whoever the host may be in our other streams, we and the panelists can have a long discussion on a certain topic, and we can talk all day. But it's all about about you as a viewer asking us questions so that we may clarify any questions, any doubts you might have, and have a good discussion. So we appreciate that you join us every single week, and we hope that inshallah in the coming shows as well, you join us and you help us spread this with this live stream and this link with others, so that they also may benefit from this. So with that, Rabbi Saab, and to our viewers, inshallah we will see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.